Okay. All right, thanks. It's recording. Great.
Oh, good.
Good job.
All right, then. Okay, all right. So morning, everyone. We're waiting on Kermit. I think we just one person won't be here today, but everyone else should be. So I have Javine and Anisha. I thought Anisha she was coming back in. Okay, she's in now. So Joan is absent today. So we're still missing Shadell and Kermit. Should we just wait a few seconds for them before we start? What I'll do is I will give you, while we're waiting, let me give you a question. I want you to see if you can come up with an answer. What I want to know, what is that? You know what? I keep your brain ticket. Sent it. Okay, someone send me a little blame. So let's go. We can come in. Okay, send her in. Else. Kermit. Oh, Kermit is not coming. He's not feeling well. Let me ask him if he could just listen.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna ask Kermit if he wants to just listen. He said he's not feeling well. Hope he don't have COVID.
This COVID thing is real.
I know. Let me get him, because once I get him, then we can start. Okay, I sent you all a question. What are the benefits and problems from the Solomon Principle? And you can type it back in the chat.
Or can you repeat it? Because I didn't get it in my chat. I guess I came in too late.
Okay, what are the benefits and problems from the Solomon Principle? So this was a 10-point question on the exam. Tell me how you would answer this. I don't see anybody typing.
I just typed in.
Oh, let me see.
If this is a 10-point question,
More.
how much okay.
More. Is anybody else write anything? But at least you trying,
I
Shaveen.
did. No, I'm typing.
Mhm. Let me see what. All right, hold on. Okay, Shaveen, I see what you wrote. Okay. Shaveen, you actually have the two benefits.
Oh,
Now,
so that next one is a benefit. Well, not a problem. The
you have to
last
turn
one.
it, yeah, you have to turn it around the other way. I'll explain it.
Okay.
Okay. I decided to do it the other way around because I had to make sure you understand this concept. Okay, let me see what I have. Oh, there's a long one. Hold on.
Hold on, I type in the problem now, okay? That was what I put for the benefit. I'm gonna type the
Okay,
problem now.
okay. Okay. Okay, so just like Shavane, you getting the concept. Okay. Okay, so Anisha has to answer now. Let me see what she's going to put.
So, Miss Archer, if this
Mhm.
is a 10-point question, I'm assuming we have to like state out the benefits, the problems, and I guess give examples in order to get that full 10 points?
Well, first you have to tell me a little bit about the Solomon case.
Okay.
So you'll see. I'll show you. This is a 10. So Anisha, are you trying or are you sleeping? I'm not hearing anything. Can she hear me? And she said it before she was having.
Oh, I thought y'all could hear me.
Hmm?
Oh, I said, oh, I thought y'all could hear me. I'm
No,
saying
we can hear you now.
I don't have anything else to add to that.
Oh, okay. No, we can hear you. That's why we were waiting on you. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So when you look at the Solomon principle and you get a question like this question is not like it's a theory mixed with practical. So remember the Solomon case was a practical application where the court ruled that he had a distinct and a distinct personality different from the company that he had formed. So look at the answers that you gave. The first benefit, and you have it there. The first benefit is the Solomon principle makes business more efficient. How does it do that? If you were in a partnership, it's totally different from when you're in a company. Why? If you enter into a contract with a partnership, you know right off front whether or not there's a 50-40, 50-50 liability between the partners. Whereas if you form a contract with a company, only thing you have to do is ensure that that person who's executing that contract on behalf of the company has the authority to do so. Other than that, your contract is one single contract with that company. And added to that efficiency is because it's just one simple contract, depends on the size of the contract, either management can approve it or the board can approve it. So it's just one approval. So that's the first benefit of the Solomon principle. It makes entering into a contract efficient. So you see how you gave the answer. The benefits is a single separate legal entity, distinct from its shareholders and not an agent. You have to turn that answer and make it practical. Because I could have changed the question and say, why would a person wish to create a company rather than a partnership or a sole proprietorship? The questions are always asking you the same thing, but in different ways. And the answers have to be different. Depends on how the question is being asked.
Headphones, please.
Say that again. So that's the benefit. That's the first benefit. The second benefit is this. And this is where you would bring in the example of the Solomon principle. And you have it in the draft answer. But like I say, you have to be able to elaborate on it more from a practical standpoint. When you form a company, the second benefit of it is just as was demonstrated in the case of Solomon case. You protect yourself from losses. If it's a sole proprietorship, where there's any loss, any failure, you have to pay for it. Rather, in a company, you distance yourself from the loss because the loss that will be incurred by the company and not you directly. So that's the first two benefits. And when you speak about that benefit, you could then elaborate on the case of Solomon versus Solomon, how he would have created the company, but the assets within the company. And then he was being sued because they were saying he and the company were one and the same. Now, the problems. Did anyone give me a problem? I don't remember reading a problem.
No, I didn't get to finish my problem. I was still trying to find a. I can't.
Is this like a problem that Solomon did
No,
that
this
he
is
shouldn't have done, or a problem that they found it within, I guess, what he did, I guess.
you saying the same thing more or less. What is the problem?
Yeah, I want to know if it's a problem that Solomon did that he shouldn't have.
Just remember now,
That,
Solomon didn't do anything wrong. It would be the problem that they claim Solomon did.
oh, okay.
Remember now, he was being sued by his creditors. So what was the problem?
That
they-
Solomon
that-
was
that
held
they-
liable instead
oh.
of the company. You think is it that?
No, wasn't that.
That
Was
they
it
thought he was an
because
agent of the company?
he was, I guess, part owner of it and I guess named after the company, they assume he should take the responsibility of the loss?
Remember I told you all now, you got to read this case inside and out. This is the backbone of company law. Once you know this case and you know what happened in this case, no matter how a company law question comes, you are able to start from the premise of the principle. So the issue with the Solomon case when the creditor took him to court was that it was an ethical issue. He was saying that Solomon was hiding his assets so he wouldn't pay his bill. That's an ethical issue. And you'll find that when you read other cases, that's always the case. The creditor is saying, you formed that company so you don't pay me. You're trying to hide your assets. You don't want to pay your bill. That's one of the problems with the principle. Because remember, I told you in last class that you can actually go to the court to pierce the corporate veil, but it very seldom happens. The court does not like to actually break that seal of that company principle set out by Solomon. And so when you talk about the problem of the principle and it being an ethical one, then you have to discuss what it means to entrepreneur like Mr. Solomon, and whether what he did was honest or not. Was he really trying to hide? Or what he really was doing was trying to protect himself from personal risk? And then on the flip side of that, you have to look at it from a company perspective. What are the risks to the shareholders? Their risks are limited. So if you were a creditor and you were suing a company, what risk would you have? You could sue for whatever amount you want, as long as the company has either the funds to pay it or the insurance to cover it. But for an entrepreneur, he loses more than just money. He loses his reputation if he can't pay. And remember, if you're an individual and you're being sued, of course, people could bring criminal liability against you for fraud. So the human being has more problems with the principle than a company. And that's your 10 points. So everybody went quiet now.
No, okay.
Understood?
Yes, I was making notes.
Okay, so if you see that again on the exam, you know just what it means.
On the midterm, I mean the midterm exam, right?
The final,
The
there are two final exams in this class.
okay, it's a final or the midterm. Okay, it's a final. Okay.
The final is a final. There's final for this part, and then the next part is another final, and then the two grades go together.
Okay, so that's 50-50 for grades.
Yeah. So I'll give you another question at the end of the class. Let's go to Unit 2. Anyone had a
Okay.
chance to look at the legislation?
You
Yeah,
mean
like
the
act.
act?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yes, and the thing is, I noticed that some of them are similar, especially I never know winding up and have so much parts of it winding up companies. It was like, yeah, but it have a lot of similarity in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that list was long, just going through the IBC Act. It's like, wow, but the Companies Act, that 10 pages. Ooh,
Okay, so let me start with the Companies Act. You printed the act itself, right?
I have it up. I can't print it. It's so much
No,
pages.
I mean you looked at the act.
Yeah, I look at the arrangement of the sections, like part one, because it was so much to go through. I just look at the list, and that's how I realized that a lot of them were similar with the IBC Act.
Okay, so hold on. Let me get mine is printed. Gotta have it printed. Well, I guess for me. When you look in your company's act online,
Mhm.
and you look at section and you hit the button right on the head, the winding up section, that was part 7 in the act.
Yes, winding up of companies.
Okay, so all of that was repealed. That's you can't read that section. You need to go down and look to in the Companies Act, go down to where you see they say companies winding up amendment.
Okay,
That
companies.
replaces that. And so remember when I started, go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Remember when I started, I said that a company can be incorporated either under the Companies Act or the IBC Act. Now you see the similarities. The difference is one is geared towards the international market and the other one is just the regular company. But both follow the Solomon principle. Both. Same principle. So the international business company is for those clients, foreigners who want to do business in a fast way. So the companies are set up much quicker than a Companies Act. The requirements are less. The cost is less to establish a company under the IBC Act. And so when you look at the list, it would practically be the same, except of course, in most instances, is the composition of the number required to establish a company and the winding up process is different. So now let's start with chapter 2. Chapter 2 talks about types of companies and then of course IBCs. So there are 2 types of companies under what we call a limited company or private company. So go to your Companies Act. You have it online so you can get a look at it. It says under section 3, method of incorporation. 4, the mode of limiting the liability of members. 5, the memorandum of a company with limited liability. 6 is with unlimited liability. 7 is with a guarantee. 8 is both by shares and by guarantee. And then of course is the articles of association. So let's go to the first section, section 3. You have it up on your screen. It says under section 3 under the Companies Act, how many persons are required to incorporate a company under that act?
2 or more.
2 or more. Now, who has the IBC Act up?
I have it up.
Okay, how many persons?
Let me scroll down to that. Oh, let me go through the sections real quick.
That'll be one of the first ones.
Okay. Scrolling.
They're both set up the same way because they're both companies.
Oh, it's 2 or more persons. Yes, you're right.
For IBC?
Yes. That's in constitution of companies subject to the requirements of this act. 2 or more persons may, by subscribing to the memorandum, incorporate a company under this act. That in part 2, section 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if someone were to ask you right now, or if in the exam I ask you, what is required to establish a company? What would your answer be? Go straight to the same section. Section 3. It simply says it's need 2 or more persons. What else?
The memorandum,
A memorandum. And what else?
articles of association.
And what else? But don't forget now, by practice, we normally do the memo and the arts together. The
Okay.
legislation just speaks to the memo.
Certificate of incorporation.
That comes further down. If you wanted to incorporate a company, you need 2 or more persons. You have to have a memorandum that is signed. The persons have to be over the age of 18. They have to have sound mind. They can't be bankrupt. And then it has to be submitted to the registrar.
Mm.
Don't forget now, there's the act and then there is practice. So, go back. We have a private company. So that's just the 5 of us forming a company. That's a private company. And private company is what we call a limited company, because each one of us is going to invest in that company. And our liability will be to the extent of what we invested in the company. So when you form a private company, it can either be limited by shares or it can be limited by guarantee. And the act speaks to both types. So if you're limited by shares, the members, that's us right here, the 5 of us, we contribute towards the payment of debts. And it's limited to our investment in the company. When it's by guarantee, you are limited to the amount that you undertake to contribute towards the assets of the company. Should it be wound up? But that's the difference between a guarantee and outright buying of shares. When you incorporate a company by guarantee, the members are not called shareholders. Why is that?
Because they didn't contribute to it. They didn't have any shares because, like you said, it's limited by guarantee upon winding up. They didn't invest any money.
Exactly.
They didn't contribute any, yes.
They didn't contribute any cash towards the business. Okay, so I look at the last paragraph on that page. It says there is no restriction on such companies trading. However, this company structure is primarily used for non-profit companies, community projects, sporting associations, and educational and charitable purposes. So that's normally where you'd see a company that has by guarantee. So the membership may fluctuate because of course you get different guarantors. They do enjoy limited liability. And of course they do have a separate legal personality. And because of that separate legal personality, that would gives them same benefits that we spoke about earlier. That they can enter into any contract that they want. They have ownership of their property. And of course, they don't attract personal liability. Having a need that I put the nonprofit companies. I know you would have seen in the papers this week, or not this week, I think they put it out the last 2 weeks on the nonprofit organization as they began to change the requirements, where the clearing banks were asking them to come in and regularize their accounts.
Yes, I saw that because our club had to do that too. My Rotary Club had to do that.
Okay. So it says here, nonprofit is a type of company limited by guarantee, used for charitable purposes, where its constitution, its memo 1 arts, prohibits the distribution of profits to its members, either by way of dividend or in winding up. So there is a difference. So if I were to ask you, what's the difference between incorporating a company by shares and one by guarantee? What would you say the main difference is?
You
I hear
contribute
someone
to you contribute to one department and you don't contribute to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be the main difference?
It's a
There's
little bit
one.
more. No, okay. So when you read the notes are what the law say. I want you to take that and make that practical. So that's how I was saying, if you form a private company, the 5 of us, each one of us will put in our $100. But if it was a guarantee, and that's like how you use your Rotary Club, that is very different from us forming a company
Mm-hmm.
by shares. That's why I want you to take the information, make it practical. So what are the difference between forming a company limited by shares and one by guarantee? There's a difference. So make it practical in your head. So we know on one side, if we're gonna, if it's a company limited by shares, you know that the individuals will actually invest in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And they're expecting dividends.
Right.
But if it's by guarantee,
They don't get any profit sharing.
like there you go, it's a big difference. That's why I'm telling you, I need you to read the Solomon case, because every class we come, I'm gonna, we only have 4, but next week, Tuesday, I'm gonna give you more Solomon questions. Once you understand what that company principle means in Solomon, and how that's fundamental to every company there is, then you begin to see how it is such a creature, why the courts don't go behind it. It's a very strong principle. So even though you both are companies, both have a separate legal identity, they can form contracts, whether it's limited by shares or by guarantee. The distinctive difference is when you buy shares, you invest cash, you're expecting a dividend. If it's by guarantee, you do not expect a dividend. There's no share of profit.
Okay.
There's another difference between the two. Guarantee, you're only expected to give the amount that you've guaranteed when?
Winding up.
Winding up. If you're an investor and they need more money, what do you think happens? And they're gonna come and say you need to invest some more money into the company
Mhm.
Right.
if you want to get some dividends. Something called a hybrid company. That's a company that'll be limited by shares and guarantee. So you can do that. You can issue shares, and at the same time, you can issue a guarantee. Then we have what we call a public company. Who will give me an example of a public company? Anyone? Quite a few. Let me give you one.
Yes.
Give a Bahamas.
Oh, that's like Seafall and those. No?
You talking
Or the registered stock? No? With investing?
We can come back to that. No,
Okay.
just the stock won't fall in there. These are the companies that are on the stock exchange. Finco, BOB, what else there?
Come a bite.
Commercial Bank, the wine people, the rum by bear people. I think there they are. And some other ones. They always
Right.
okay. So those are public companies. So a company can be private and then become public. Public means that the five of us decide we want to expand our business. So we were buying our supplies from Miami. It was expensive. So we now decided we want to go to China. We want to get 5 trailers of stuff. But we now realize that we don't have sufficient money and we can't raise it. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to see if we can get some investors to come in and help us raise this capital that we need. Now you can do what we call like a private placement, where each one of us can go out to 2 friends we probably know and ask them if they want to invest in the company. Or you prepare a prospectus detailing the company, how it has been doing business, what it intends to do, the future of the company, and ask anyone in the public who is interested to invest in the company. So that's what they mean when a company goes public. Invite anyone to come in and invest in the company. So when you do that, what do you think happens to the company? Think about it now. We were a little small company, just us. Now we have investors from all over the Bahamas. Is what?
Would it,
No, go
would
ahead.
it be
No.
more people get a say in the company?
Yeah, exactly. Because they have the vote. You have more access to capital. You have more people have a say in the company, but also from the opposite side, you have more regulations and more restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So those are the things you have to think about. Hold on one second. Let me get this. Oh Lord, why is this moving up and down? Okay, hold on one second. And the next one is a statutory company. And if you have your legislation, I want you to go to the Segregation Companies Act. Your own and my own, all. Have you heard about the Segregation Companies Act before?
No.
Not
Okay.
before this.
Okay. Have a quick read of it, and then we're gonna talk about it. Won't take you long. Just go down through the index, read the first 2 or 3, and then you'll have an idea what it is. Okay, so look at the segregated account. So a segregated account is a vehicle that the Bahamas designed where you can take a company and then you register that company under that act. You understand what I mean? It gets complicated.
No.
No, right? Okay. So you want to form a company. So you go through the whole process of forming a company under the Companies Act, a regular company. But then based on the nature of the business that you're going to do, you're going to take that company and you're going to say, I want this company also registered under the Segregated Accounts Company Act. And what it does is that whenever assets are put into that account that has that designation as a segregated account, those assets are separate and apart from other assets held by that company. We call them SACs, S-A-C-S. You'll see it more if you were to work in an offshore company. You'll see where securities firms, they would register a company and then they will go and register it again as a SAC. And then when they put the assets and liabilities of their clients, they put each one in a SAC. So that means that if you were to sue the company by name, the assets underneath it cannot be crossed. Each one is separate and apart from the other one. You understand it now?
A little
I
more.
guess.
A little
Sound-
more. Like how
Sound
you
like
have
like branches.
Okay, let me do it like how you use them branches. So take a tree
Mm-hmm.
with vines.
Mhm.
So when you plant a tree first, before all those vines come out, it's just one tree.
Right.
That's the company.
Mm-hmm.
Company is
Okay.
formed. Now, this company is in the securities business. And so in the securities business is holding money for many different clients.
Mhm.
And each one of those clients are trading. If that company is sued, the creditor is going to sue based on those assets in that company. You agree?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So because the money that they are trading back and forth, all of it is not their money. They're going to take a company and they're going to say, let me register this company as a SAC. Put it under this statutory company called a segregated account company. Which means that when I open up this an account for Anisha, and I put her assets and liabilities in that, and I open another one, and this one is for Shavine. If something was to happen to Shavine, and Shavine is now being sued, you cannot go and apply it to the amount that's in the cell for Anisha.
Mm.
And you cannot go and apply it to the cell That's in my name. Each one is separate.
Like different fruits of the tree.
Yes, they're separate, distinct.
Okay.
So when you form a SAC, the SAC itself gives it another separate and legal personality. Remember now, the essence of the principle of the Solomon, the whole Solomon story was that it all has to do with liability. I don't want to be personally liable. That's why we formed a company. You don't come behind me. You go behind the company. So now let's look at the IBC. That was the company now, a regular company, IBC. IBCs and the Bahamas was I think we were the first company to create this IBC. All the other countries you see doing IBCs did it after us. So IBCs is what you call a corporate vehicle. So a lot of foreigners use this corporate vehicle and they use it for commercial reasons, corporate, wealth management, trading, insurance, investment. Why? Because when they go out there and they enter into a contract, they do not use him. They use their company. That's all they use. And some people use IBCs in their whole wealth management structure. Again, because it's a very flexible and easy to use vehicle in the international market. IBCs can conduct business with Bahamian residents because before we weren't able to, was just geared towards the foreigners. They can lease property. Now look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth paragraph. The fifth paragraph tells you that no person other than a bank or trust company licensed under the Banks and Trust Company Act shall incorporate an IBC unless they are a financial corporate service provider. What do you think that section is telling you?
But not any individual will just go in and say that they want to incorporate an IBC.
Yes. You're either a bank or a trust company or a financial corporate service provider. Do you know what they do? You never heard of them
I've
before?
heard of them, but not entirely sure what their function is.
Okay. So what the Bahamas did is over time, they had a whole sector of professionals. So like people who would have retired, we had a lot of retired bankers, trustees, trust administrators, regulators. And so they carved out a market for them. And in this market, they will be able to create a company, company, and then they created the Financial Corporate and Service Providers Act. And once you register under that act, that gave you the authority to provide financial services and corporate services to clients. So once you have that license, your company can be a director of another company. It can be an officer of another company. You can incorporate IBCs. So you end up with this license, you begin to offer advice and services to those persons who wish to incorporate an IBC and who want someone to manage that IBC. And manage that IBC means filing all of the documents to the registrar, paying the fees, stamping documents, sending out billings. That's what this act does. So it's a business. And it says IBCs may maintain bank accounts with banks operating in the Bahamas And of course, they go through the normal KYC information. So that's a big business in the Bahamas. So now let's go to incorporation. How do you incorporate a company? There's a lot of words here, but I'll tell you for the exam, you have to be practical. You have to take this whole section and just do it in the flow chart, and you find out it's not as long as it appears in writing.
So this will be a 10-point question and another essay
Yes.
question. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 10 point. So let's go through this and let's see how to incorporate a company. What's the first step? What's the first step? You need a name.
Sorry, I was
Right.
talking and didn't realize I was on mute.
First step is you need a name. What's the second step?
You need to go to the registrar general to register.
You have to reserve your name.
Reserve the name.
What after that?
You gotta pay your
Memorandum of association.
Now remember now, when you reserve your name, make sure you pay now.
Right.
Okay, so what you do next? I heard it. Memorandum and articles of association. And then what you do next? What you need a certificate of compliance? The certificate of compliance states that you have met all the requirements in the act in order for the company to be incorporated. So what happens next?
We could start business.
No. What did the court say in Solomon? The court said that because the company was properly incorporated, you reserve your name, you pay for it.
Well, after
Go
you
ahead.
register with the registrar, you will get your certificate of incorporation.
There you go. The certificate of incorporation states that you are now validly a company. Without that, you are not. You must have your certificate of incorporation. All right. So that's an IBC. If it was a company, would there be a difference?
Not really, eh?
No, it's not. No, won't be different. Not at all. So when you incorporate the name of a company, does it have to be all in words?
No.
What it could be in?
It could be words and numbers. It can contain a dual name of English or foreign
Words,
name.
numbers, foreign name. You can put it in Mandarin, put it in any language. So it's a simple, very simple process. Normally, I don't need to know the fees because fees always change. And remember now, if the question asks, what are the to incorporate a company? If it is an IBC, it has to be done by, that's your caveat at the end. The process you just gave is correct. Identify a name, reserve it, note that a name can be in word, numbers, or in foreign language. You submit your memo and articles and certificate of compliance. You get your certificate of incorporation from the registrar, And then you have to say if the company is incorporated under the IBC Act. I'm not finishing it. What should happen? A financial corporate service provider may incorporate an IBC or a company license under the Banks and Trust Companies Act.
Oh.
No. Oh, I know you was. Did I not just tell you that in the page
Yes, you
before?
did.
Okay. So now if you want your 10 points,
I got
tell me how to incorporate a company in the Bahamas. Let me hear it from y'all.
Need a name, reserve the name and pay for it.
Qualifier. The name could be in words.
Foreign language.
Go ahead.
Get your memo of association and article of association. Get your certificate of compliance, and then you receive your certificate of incorporation.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I got. Y'all finish it.
You're missing the critical part on the end now. Come on, let's go. Note that if the company is incorporated under the IBC Act, a financial corporate service provider, finish it. Financial corporate service provider may incorporate the IBC or a company licensed under the Banks and Trust
Trust Companies Act.
Yes, that's the caveat. It's for an IBC. They're the only ones who can do that. So, at the beginning, we said that a company can be limited by shares, by guarantee. It can be a hybrid company with both. He said a non-profit organization is falls under guarantee. We also spoke about statutory company, such as the where you could take a company that's already incorporated and then you actually have it registered under that act, which gives it an even added protection. And of course, we spoke about public companies. And then public companies are those where we have investors from the general public. Now let's look at IBCs. IBCs, again, are similar. They could be limited by shares. They could be limited by guarantee. They could be an unlimited company. They can have a limited duration, or they can also be so the features are similar. Limited duration means that there's a time period attached to it.
Okay.
So let's look at the memorandum of association. The memorandum provides the name of the company, location of the registered office, the registered agent, the statement of objects, the authorized capital, and the shares to be issued, the number of shares to be issued as registered, and the currency. So in the memorandum, why we need to know the location of the registered office and the registered agent?
You have to
It's
make
to prove
sure,
its legitimacy.
Yes.
and ensure that they're approved under the Financial and Corporate Service Providers Act. No?
Well, that's two. Let's go. One more, getting warm. You said legitimacy. You said that to ensure that they're incorporated under the Financial and Corporate Service Providers Act. Now roll all of that up into one sentence. Go to page 27. At the bottom.
Oh, the name and address of the company shareholders are only registered in the share registry. I don't know, file registry public in the Bahamas, and they're provided address.
The section that say registered office. On your page, go over to the next page. Go to the sub that said registered office, registered agents. Just like
So
you,
it's required by law to
it's
maintain an
required by
office.
law. So when you said it was legitimate, I thought you would remember by going through the index that there is a section, and then you would have gone to that section. It is required by law. Why is it required by law? Is your answer, the answer you gave me for the second part. Because
See if
only
it's legitimate.
right, only because only an FCSP or a company under the BPCRA can incorporate it. So your registered office and your registered agent must be one of them.
Right.
That's why it's required by law. And that's where all of your records are kept. So the second bullet point for the memorandum where I say a statement of objects. You see underneath there where I put, go back, where I put the ultra virus doctrine does not apply. Beforehand, when you would incorporate a company, you would put, my company is to sell banana trees. They don't do that anymore. They just put a line to say whatever is legitimate business. So you're not constrained. You have to keep amending and amending your documentation. So notice it says here that IBCs can amend their memo and articles by shareholders or directors' resolution. Because remember now, the company is formed by shareholders. And you can only have directors amended if the permission is given in the memo and arts. And remember, bearer shares are no longer allowed in the Bahamas. And why do you think that is? You know what bearer shares mean?
No.
Bearer shares, huh?
I can't remember.
Bearer shares means that on the share certificate, there is no name. So I have a certificate that has no name, and right now, that share certificate is worth $1,000. So I owe Shavine $950. I have no money. I'll just give a certificate. There is no formality. So I no longer own that. She does. And so it could pass from hand to hand to hand 5 or 10 times a day. And so you never know who owns the shares. And so that's a big risk of not knowing who owns the company. So those are no longer prohibited in the Bahamas and in most jurisdictions around the world. So share capital, there's no minimum authorized capital for an IBC. So the people, the shareholder can come and say, this is what I want to start my company off with. Sometimes it's 10,000, 20,000. The authorized share capital of an IBC may be divided into various classes of shares. And I want you to go on Commonwealth Bank website and pull down one of their financial statements and look at their share capital. And you see the various classes of shares that they have. can also reduce your capital. You can increase your capital. You can reduce your capital. Then there are shareholders and shareholders meetings. So there only need to be one shareholder for an IBC. They don't need no nationality or residency. Because like I said, it's geared towards foreigners. And the meetings can be convened by the directors or the shareholders holding more than 50% of the vote. And the meetings don't have to be here in the Bahamas. They can all be via the telephone. The directors. An IBC is only required to have one director, who may be an individual or a company, and the director need not be a Bahamian resident. So sometime on the IBC itself, the director could be another company incorporated by an FCSP. The number of directors in a company are stated in the Articles of Association. And whenever you go to incorporate a company, you'll hear them keep using the word subscribers. Subscribers are the persons who are putting in the initial application. So they are the first directors of the company. Then the next one is the process for actually starting out a meeting. And whether you're in the IBC Act or you're in the Companies Act, there is a process and there is a time limit. So if you're gonna have a meeting, the Act tells you how many days notice you have to give the directors. And failure to give the correct number of days can make the meeting invalid. And like for any meeting, you need a quorum. And the meeting can be in the Bahamas or outside the Bahamas on the telephone. Some could be present. And the powers of the directors are in the memorandum or the articles. Or sometimes they have power under the unanimous shareholder agreement. We'll talk about that some more on Tuesday. But I have a little spread here on unanimous. A unanimous shareholder agreement is where the shareholders, they write out how they want the company to be managed. And it more or less restrict what the directors can do. And in it, they would put in all of their rights and their powers and their duties. I'll see if I can find one for you for the next class. Because it more or less restricts what the directors can do. And of course, just like how it is in banking, in company law, there's also confidentiality. Everything surrounding the company is kept confidential by the FCSP or the bank or the trust company. Now the last section is always on the exam. What makes the IBC such an attractive company to incorporate? And here we've listed how many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And so normally if I ask you, what are some of the attractions to the incorporation of an IBC? 10-point question. What would you say?
Can you repeat that, please?
What are the attractions to incorporating an IBC in the Bahamas?
It's easier, faster.
Mm-hmm. That's only
They
one
can
point.
they can hold securities in other Bahamian companies.
Uh-huh.
They can be held by anyone.
Give me 6. So let's go. I always assume,
IBCs may hold securities in other behemoth companies.
right? Okay. Make sure it's 6 that you can remember.
All right.
Okay, IBCs may hold securities in other behemoth companies.
Mm-hmm.
Securities of an IBC may be held by anyone.
Mm-hmm. The easiest one to remember is that there are minimal statutory filing requirements. Remember, I told you that is less than a regular company.
Minimum statutory.
You can transfer it to another jurisdiction. Don't forget, this is used by foreigners. That's easy to remember.
Mhm.
Next one,
Exemption, exempt, oh, sorry.
control, exactly. We need one more. It could be transferred to another jurisdiction and continued as an IBC. Isn't that wonderful? Yes?
Very.
Oh, Lord. Your brain already gets tired because it's Saturday, right? Hey, I was once a student. I know. I know. I want you to read for class for next week, Tuesday, again
Right.
on the Solomon Principle. Next week,
Thursday.
Thursday,
on the Solomon
To
Principle.
read, just
I want you to read the
read.
case of Macora. Let me type it.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Macaura versus. Well, I want us to discuss this one. There's more than one. Company Limited. Let me give it a year. 1925. I want you to read that case. I want you to read the case of Lee versus Lee. That is 1960. And I have another case I need you to read. Hold on, I have to get the name. This is another case. If I don't find it, then I'll have to send it by email, which I don't want to do. See if I can. That's not it. Those two are on the internet. There's another case on Pearson, the corporate veil. I want you to read. I want you to read this case, and this is also on the internet, okay? So we'll do chapter 3, and then I want to go through these 3 cases. Make sure pass these on to Kermit.
Okay.
And you could tell him to, Miguel recorded the class. You can call Miguel for the link, or y'all can do it too if you want to.
Okay.
Okay.
Joan knows this as well, or you want me to tell
Yeah,
her?
no, you could tell her, but she's the one who reminded us yesterday.
Okay.
So
Okay.
every Saturday, the classes will be recorded.
Okay.
Understood. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Where would they
Wonderful.
be sent?
No,
would
you
they-
call Miguel and he'll give you the link.
Miguel
Okay.
usually puts them on YouTube too, because some of our classes, previous classes, are on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You saw he was on this morning, right?
He's still on now.
Yeah, because he's recording.
Yes, I have a question. I
Go
know you
ahead.
want us to prepare these readings, and I know you still want us to go through the study resource list from Unit 1. And I just note that these are in the resource list from Unit 1. So still prepare all of those? Okay.
Yeah, they are there,
Mhm.
but these are the ones I want you to focus on for Tuesday.
Okay.
For Thursday, yeah. You don't, yeah. And then on Thursday, I'll give you another set out of that same group that I want you to focus on. I'm going to force you to read it.
Okay.
That's what it's about.
Okay.
So we're going to talk again about the Solomon principle in the first two. And then the last one I just sent you, the press versus Petrodel. We're going to start talking about piercing the corporate veil. And in that case, it discusses most of the cases on piercing the corporate veil. So since you already have time allotted, you may begin. And like I told you all, if you all want to, you can form a group. And it's good when you form a group because you can read it, you can argue it, and sometimes your point of view of what you see, when other people read it, they'll be saying, but no, 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 you missed this. This is not what they were trying to say there. So when we get together, you can have a lively conversation and then you begin to understand more the company principle. Because the questions are not going to be simple as discuss what happened in the Solomon case. No, it's going to be where someone incorporated a company and they're having problems. So you got to really understand this principle, okay? So that's 3 cases you have to read. And like I say, there are summaries on the internet, but the last one, the pest versus Petrodel, I don't want a summary. I want you to read the whole thing. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Should I put that in the chat? The case of press, please read the full case. I don't want a summary on that one. I want you to really understand it because it has all of the cases for piercing the corporate veil and it gives you the most current perspective of what the courts think of all the previous decisions that were made. Okay? All right, happy reading. I'll see you all Thursday sharp. And make sure Joan knows. Even if she doesn't get to listen to the video, to the audio, she would have done her homework over the weekend.
Okay.
It's a Sabbath day.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I notice now I'm giving you hints as we go. So
Right.
when
Stop.
right. So when you hear there is the final exam, I won't be there. You already have an idea of how the questions are going to be coming. They'll do a review like a review.
Right.
And because
But
I'm writing the exam, you'll have an idea when they tell you that there's a question coming on this. You already have an idea of what I'm looking for
Right.
10 points. And between Thursday and Saturday, you'll have an idea what I'm looking for. If I tell you I'm giving you a 20-point question.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
So, Ms. Archer, I have a question.
Go ahead.
From the self-assessment questions from Unit 1, question 6 helped me little
Hold on, let me get my
little foggy.
okay, hold on. Question 6.
It, that's supposed to be separation.
Yes.
Oh,
Separate. Yeah.
oh, okay, okay. All right, that was all.
Yeah. Those ones are only just to make sure, like someone who's never done company, never worked in a bank, to see if they understand it.
Okay.
But you have an understanding of company, the questions on exam will be nothing like them. Most people expect to see those kind of questions on exam. No. Between Thursday and Saturday, I've already given you some of what the 10-point questions look like and what I expect you to write.
Mhm.
So on Thursday when you come, I'm going to give you a 20-point question. And that'll be based on the case of Press versus Petrodel, which is on piercing the corporate veil.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions I'll ask on Thursday as I can be coming with questions.
Yes. And for that same case, if you can, when you go to work, if you're in a printer, try to print it so you can write on it.
Okay.
Okay, for the last one, the press one. Okay. Sounds like y'all are ready now. My whole problem is Kermit is not here. And I know
I'll inform him.
yeah, Kermit is up plenty questions.
Yes, he does.
But pass it on to him. I can see him now asking plenty questions. But he'll have to catch up since he's not feeling well. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So have a great weekend. Don't spend your weekend sleeping. Please start reading my cases.
I gotta go for a drive first, and then
Oh,
I
Jesus.
can.
See you all later. Enjoy
Okay,
your
have a
bye.
good
Take
day.
care.
Okay, bye.